So I decided to take our ballots to drop off at the voting center, which is at Honolulu Hale. I drop it off very early in the morning. I would say maybe a little after 8 a.m. Right when I come home, check the status of my ballot. It says that it was mailed out to me and it was in phase 1 of 2 parts, meaning that the second part is when they actually count your ballot and then they receive it over 24 hours later. And my ballot hasn't been received, it hasn't been scanned, it even has not even been accepted for counting. And you know what? That's just preposterous. That's absolutely preposterous. I have a constitutional right to not only vote, but to have my vote counted. And for them to declare winners early on in the election and for them to not even process my ballot, like they never processed my ballot. The election is done as far as they're concerned. Everything is in and they have not even processed my ballot. The ballot that I turned in early on that very same day, they still have not counted it or processed it. I don't even know if they're going to do that. That's not only unfair, that's absolutely unconstitutional. That should be a major crime. To not count somebody's vote just because you think you don't need to, because after all, we got enough votes to determine the winner already. So while people are giving their concession speeches and their acceptance speeches, my vote didn't even get considered. And I know this because I'm tracking it. They gave me until 7 p.m. last night to put in my ballot. That's the agreement that we had. As long as I turned in my ballot at 7 p.m. on August 13th, 2022, my vote will be counted. That is the agreement. But here we are, everything's POW, everything's done, and my vote hasn't been counted. There have also been others who actually went to go and vote in person and they couldn't because according to the system, they already voted. And it's disrespectful for the media to suggest that they can just call out a candidate after the first printout, which happened last night. Wow, this candidate has an overwhelming chance of getting it. I think we just can call the election for tonight. I'm all for printouts. I'm all for being updated. FYI, the media does not care about your vote at all. They don't care about your right to vote because if they did, then they would have waited for every single vote to come in. Instead, they choose to just disregard the voice of everybody else that didn't fit in this time frame that they wanted the answers with, and then they just declared the winner already. BJ Penn had come out with a statement saying, "It's not over. We are not conceding. Hashtag BJ Penn for governor." I don't know what this means. I don't know why they're not conceding. I don't know what evidence they have to suggest that they can kind of fight it or what that means. But here are my thoughts. Don't have any qualms about this election being unfair to the extent that I already explained. Of course, this election was so grossly unfair. To suggest that there was fraud or that there were some other things that were going on, I really don't know. But what I do know is that I have concluded that there are people actually out there who don't give. Like, they don't care if the government overreaches them. They don't care if gas prices go up, if their rent goes up, if their electricity bill goes up. They don't care if there's not enough housing for the Kanaka Maoli because everybody else outside is buying up all the land and there's nothing left. And it's so dang expensive. Every election promises that things would change, and then they're in power now, right? That they can produce change. They can actually do something, and they never do. Every election year blows my mind. They make these promises and people believe them and they just go vote. Oh, just as long as you're in this particular party, vote. Oh yes, vote. Vote. And they don't think about it. It's like they're just mindless zombies on a conveyor belt. And when a ballot comes every 2 or 4 years, ding, 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 ding. That's all they do is just vote for this one particular candidate or vote for this one particular party. How can you want change and then have the same thing happen and either vote for the same stuff or don't even vote at all? Elections have consequences, and people who don't want to vote, there's a consequence. And even though myself and my family does everything we can to make sure that Hawaii is a place where my children can grow up, where we can afford to live here, we still have to succumb to the results of those 62% of voters who don't care at all. So I'm going to leave this with an Instagram quote that one of my favorite candidates that were out there, he had probably shared it best. And his name is Brenton Awa, and he had this to say: "Never before has a win felt so much like a loss. It'll take an unmatchable effort to overcome the powers who keep us oppressed. We can do this come November, but only with your help." And that's exactly true. It will take every single Hawaiian, it will take every single ethical, moral person who is registered to vote in this November election. How much does it have to hurt our families, our keiki, our communities? How much does it have to hurt us before we go, ouch, I better get off my fat butt and go out there and vote? Let's see if Hawaii wakes up in time to make a difference.
The fight for Hawaiians comes in many different forms. When Kanaka fall, others rise.
The former journalist Brenton Awa has run away with the Republican nomination on that one.
Because the life of the land depends on the decisions of its people.